Okay, let's go over the Mountain King. Let's talk about what I like him in, what I do not like him in, his current state, if I feel he needs to be changed, as well as if you pull him, should you work on him. Now, the thing that I like him in the best, the thing that I feel that he shines at, is in Arena. Now, I'm not going to make the argument that he's like OP as Ray or anything in Arena, but the argument I will make is that he is a decent counter character for people that are extremely tanky with shields and block damage buffs. Now, if you're familiar with the way he moves, he essentially has 3 moves. He has a basic attack that's just an attack. His second move ignores 50% defense and it's just a standard attack. And then his third move goes through shield and it goes through block damage buffs, meaning that you can still one-shot somebody under a block damage buff, such as Roshkard the Tower, for instance. Now, you will not go through unkillable. So, for instance, if he was able to one-shot unkillable people, meaning like Santa, Skull Crown, Skull Crusher, people that have that ability, I believe he would be a significantly better Arena character. But as he stands, he is mostly a counter for people with those type of shield and block damage buffs. Okay, here we're dropping him into a Dragon 20 run. Now, normally I use Tomb Lord instead of him. I like the utility it brings. Now, instead of the extra utility and poisons we're going to have here, instead we're trading that for the pure damage the Mountain King has. Typically, I do a run between 4 and 5 minutes. My very best time is 3 minutes, 42 seconds. So we're going to do this run. We're going to take a look at the damage and see if it helps. My initial impression from the testing of it is that while he does do more single target damage than people like my Scarhide, unless they get multiple Lucky Giant Slayer procs, then they do more damage per auto. But if they don't get lucky, the Mountain King does in fact tend to do more basic attack auto on a good crit. And that can help, okay? Unfortunately, because we're relying so much strictly on the Mountain King's auto attack to carry, it becomes difficult for me to want to use him, as the RNG factors of the match will decide whether or not he gets the last hit on minions to get that bonus 50% attack every time you kill somebody. Now, especially in dungeons like the Dragon or Fire Knight, where you get to the last portion and there is no additional minions to kill, it is hard for him to get stacking damage enough to really feel relevant. You're seeing here he crit for 14k on the Apothecary, while Ray is critting for 30 and 40k on AoEs. Now, there's an Enchanted Axe and crit for 68k. The ignoring defense tends to be where he gets the majority of his damage, the second move. The third move that ignores shield and block damage does less damage than the ignore defense move I've noticed, but obviously it goes through shield and block damage, so it's more useful in like PvP type of encounters. Whereas the Dwarven King is better with his second move during the dungeons portions that ignore defense, as higher tier dungeons have higher and higher defense, and ignore defense scales really well into the late game. That being said, once we are in fact at the Dragon here, about 2 minutes, that's approximately the average time, you can see he uses third move, non-crit, and hits 6k. Now, there's no additional minions for him to get the 50% stacking up to 100% bonus, so during the Dragon, we're going to have lower damage than we would like to, whereas people like Scarhide are proccing 17,000 per auto attack on Giant Slayer. You can notice here, he got a crit with his basic attack and did 10k. Now, I do believe there's a couple ways we can solve the problem of the Dwarven King being useful in Arena in certain situations and not useful elsewhere. You notice there he did 60k on the second move. Now, if you could do your second move every single time, the ignore defense one, 60k per turn is respectable damage. That's comparable to people like Scarhide who are proccing continual Giant Slayer procs or even poisons from Nethro. You'll see Nethro there, just proc 40k with his AoE. From the Giant Slayer proc. In order for the Dwarven King to be able to compete with these type of numbers, what we need to see him have is the 50% ignore defense on his basic attack. You'll notice his basic attack crit for 30k, 32k, without having stacked off of multiple opponents first. Meaning that if this was a basic attack after stacking, he's probably critting somewhere in the vicinity of 50k on the Dragon. And we really need to see about 70 to 80,000 crits in order for me to really want to run this character consistently. Scarhide there got over 100,000 damage just counting, the Giant Slayer procs, plus he removes, buffs on auto, etc. So I think the Dwarven King has potential if we can agree to get the ignore defense like he had there in the second move onto the basic attack. I feel like on that case, he has a position he would be useful in. He would then be useful as someone who counters high defense targets. He would continue to be more useful in arena even, as you would kind of counter defense up. And we do very much see a 60% defense up type of meta currently, both in PvE and PvP. And I think that this is something that maybe could help that. Now, if you look at the numbers, this is kind of where we're going to prove what I've been talking about. You can see his numbers are not terribly far off of acceptable. He's competing with people with AoEs. Nethro has 2 forms of AoE. Scarhide has an AoE in his third move, though it doesn't hit very hard, but he's also competing with Giant Slayer procs. Tayrell and both Ray have AoEs, whereas Mountain King is single target damage for 638k. His numbers look small, but for single target damage, that's actually fairly respectable. The problem is, when it comes to the boss and we can't stack that stacking attack, we need a little bit more. Okay, this is kind of interesting. I've been running some more Dragon 20s just to kind of, get some more opinions here. And I noticed that I just did my best time ever of 326. I'm not sure if the Mountain King is kind of closing out some of these kills after the AoE from Tayrell and Ray to kind of blow through some of the earlier rounds. But this is kind of weird to me. I didn't expect to be doing it quicker with the Mountain King. So I'm watching him after some runs here, and what I'm noticing is that, he basically closes out kills. So people will AoE, all that jazz, and then he does like a big hit on single target damage. People target that guy down and blow him down, kind of like they're doing here. And for that reason, it kind of helps the team like focus down one guy. So here's my feedback on this character. I don't have any problem with the design of the character. I actually think single target flat damage characters are fine. I know that's probably not a popular opinion, but the reason I believe characters like this one are typically vaulted or people don't like them is because when you have a single target flat damage character that does not do procs, things of like poison, Giant Slayer, removing buff, if it doesn't have something in additional, in order for the character to feel really good to use, you need the flat damage to have such a high ceiling on it that we're getting massive crits. My basic attack, I want to see critting for 100k, because I know that basic attack is going to do absolutely nothing except the crit. The damage alone is what this character contributes. For that reason, he needs to contribute massively more damage than the characters that are both contributing damage and utility. So where does that leave us? What's my honest opinion on him? How do I feel about him? Is he usable? This is it in a nutshell. If you are a newer player, maybe even early mid-game, and you pull this guy, let's say you have no legendaries, some bad epics, and you pull him and you're saying, is this guy complete trash? Is he as bad as a rare? Should I put him in the vault? I don't think so. I think you can get some use out of him. I think you're going to have to find your way to get use out of him, meaning you're going to have to get the gear right. I didn't have maximum gear when I did my testing. I'm sure that once I get better gear and the correct accessories and, 6-star and all that stuff, it will be better. But to be honest, the same gear that I have on him, if I put on a different character, that character would typically perform better. Meaning, this character is not responding the way I would like him to respond in order for him to be usable for me. But if we go back to the example of the early, maybe mid-game player that does not have many characters, this character is somebody you can max out and not feel bad about. Every character in the game, for the most part, has some use somewhere, depending on your subjective position in your roster. So don't look at this character and see the community talking about how bad he is, because we're talking about how bad he is comparatively to other legendaries and to how good we believe he should be, not his current position. The current position of him is he is entirely usable in Arena. You can use him as a Roshkar counter, and if you're in the lower ranks, you're not in Gold 4 or something, it's very, very easy to climb. This guy will help you climb. The Arena is easy. Unfortunately, the way the game is built, the arena tends not to be as important unless you're just grinding medals, which you can do almost at any point in the game to purchase accuracy upgrades. That is the primary point of arena. You do get some stat bonuses for being in Gold 4, but like I said, getting to Gold 4 isn't really that difficult. You can almost entirely do it by attacking people that only put one character out there and help you climb for free. To summarize it, this character is a product of wrong place at the wrong time. An interesting character with an interesting concept built around the fact that you ignore block damage and shields, you have ignoring of defense, he's kind of a tank buster, large scaling, increases the champion attack every time he kills an enemy. He's supposed to be a ramping monster. Unfortunately, the position we're at in the game, Arena, is neither the most cost-effective solution for you to highly prioritize, neither is flat damage and the things that he has to offer what we really need in the game for the current position that the game has been developed. Meaning, this character may in and of himself be a fine thematic creation and a fine idea and kit concept. However, the kit concept implemented into the reality of what the game is does not mesh well currently. So, usable, yes or no? In Arena, yes. Elsewhere, it's going to be a no for me. If you pull this guy, you need help in Arena, sure. Otherwise, you probably want to pass on this one if you really, really, really are struggling in PvE and you're short on resources and you desperately need to build one guy to save you, this isn't the guy for that. Same position, but in Arena, and you have nothing but like Kel, and Spear Host, even though those are like fine Arena options, honestly, and you just want one other thing, and this is your only option? Yeah, he's probably good for that. I think it's actually kind of fun, but that's where it ends. Thanks for watching my review of this character. I enjoyed spending all of my resources to use him for this video, and I'll see you guys on the next one.